Welcome back. Now, fitness and nutrition are two, of course, very, very important facets of a sports person's life. Now, not just sports persons, it's a fundamental necessity for film stars as well. My two guests tonight are two gentlemen who handle exactly these facets for a wide range of sports and film stars. Their client list includes Indian sports personalities like Akhil and Jitendra Kumar, shooters Gagan Narang and Rajyavardhan Singh Rathore, film stars like Sanjay Dutt and Salman Khan, Hollywood celebrities like Sylvester Stallone and Brad Pitt, and the list just goes on and on. I'm running out of breath here. Let me quickly introduce you to Mr. Mike Ryan, celebrity fitness trainer, who's here in studio with us. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, Mr. Rehan Jalali, an equally famous sports nutritionist, who also joins us here in the studio. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Now, one thing, if I could start with you, Mike, quickly, the one thing that's really been in the news of late and that we've all been reading about in the newspapers and the magazines is just how good John Abraham is looking in his new film, Dostana. Now, a lot of people who've read those articles know that you're the man behind that look of John's. What was that experience like?
It was a wonderful experience. I had a wonderful time. John's a hard-working guy. We were down in Miami. We met a couple weeks prior to the shoot, and it was an all-inclusive work. I mean, when I worked with him, we did cardio training for about an hour, weight training for an hour, and I'm with him for all his meals. So he had to eat about 7, maybe 8 times a day. Right. So it's very rigorous. I mean, when you see the film, it's like, oh, it's jokey, it's fun. These guys are having a blast, but behind it all, it was a lot of hard work.
Right. Do you think it's difficult to work with someone like a John who is constitutionally, naturally gifted with a great physique? Do you think it's difficult to work with someone like that and push him to the next level?
It's really, the physique never really takes part of it. It's the person's attitude.
Right.
If they're mentally prepared to take on a role, and Rehan will attest to this, it just makes the job so much better. If you get someone geared up for that role, it just makes the job so much easier. And John was fantastic.
Right.
Yeah,
and of course the results show, because he made it to the top 10 of the Sexiest Men list in a special episode of the Sexiest Men series.
Believe it or not, he called me. He was so excited for that. He's like, guess what? I'm in the top 10. I'm like, you stud, way to go. Yeah.
Great. Rehan, if I could get you in on this one. Now, you've worked with numerous sports personalities, both Indian and foreign. What do you think is the difference really when it comes to working with a sports star as opposed to, say, a film star?
Well, I would say that the sports stars have a more rigorous schedule. I mean, for example, in basketball or American football, they take a beating. Right. And their bodies are abused, whereas film stars have to basically look good on camera. Right. So they're more worried about how they appear and how they look, and if they're lean or muscular. And as Mike will tell you, I mean, that's what really it's all about on camera. Right. Whereas sports stars have to be more performance-oriented. They have to look at reaction time, speed, quickness, endurance. And so now I have to, it makes my work a little bit harder. And now I have to, make people look good on screen, and also make them, run faster, jump higher, and be bigger and stronger. So it's quite a challenge, but I try to manage.
Right. So which category of sports people would you say are like the fittest?
I would say either basketball players, American football players, even British football players, or soccer, as they say in America, right. Players. I think that it depends on the fitness level, but those 3 sports I think are very rigorous in terms of fitness, endurance, and the body takes a lot of abuse as well. So I would say they're pretty fit.
Right. Mike, you also have worked with a number of sports personalities, mostly foreign sports personalities. Your experience, personal experience, who's easier to work with? Would you say a film star is easier to work with, or is it a sports star?
Well, to elaborate on what Rehan said, it's basically for John, it's like, I need you in the best shape for 5 seconds.
Right.
You know what I mean? But with athletes, it's all about training, recovery, rehabilitation. So it's tough. And these guys, they're so intense all the time. Right. Like I said, when you're on a set with John and Abhishek, there's going to be jokes everywhere. You're going to be looking for, your wallet. They're going to play us. But when it comes down to serious athletes, it's just like it's very intense all the time.
Right.
Yeah, you have to keep that edge on these guys too.
Right, because of course sports many would consider a more serious business than the film industry, even though we try and have some fun now and then in the sports industry. Well, Rehan, if I could ask you this, you worked with certain boxers as well, Indian boxers like Akhil Kumar and Jitendra Kumar. Tell us what the experience was there, because these guys fared really well in the Olympics this time.
Well, they were taking some good nutritional products, and I think, in boxing, and I've worked with other boxers as well in America, some who've gone on to win the heavyweight championship, but I think, with the nutrition and fitness fitness level, it's very important in boxing specifically because it's long-term, your body takes a beating, and the training is so intensive that if you don't recover properly and have the right nutrition and supplements during the training phase, then you can't excel in the sport. So to answer your question, it's been fantastic working with them because I actually like working with athletes because you can push them harder and further, and they're used to being pushed. So you can abuse them more. So I like it.
Yeah, that really is a huge difference between athletes and sports and film stars, isn't it? And because athletes from the very beginning, because of their grooming and their training, they're used to, as Rehan said, they're used to being pushed. But film stars are more rigid in their approach, and they say, "Oh, really? Do we have to do this as well?" I know. But really, when you come across someone, say an athlete, and you're fixing up a diet chart for him or her, what really goes into your evaluation of that athlete, and how do you decide what kind of a diet chart to fix up?
Great question. What I generally do is I do a complete blood profile. I find out, I don't guess, I test. Because I find out what's going on inside. Like I tell people, I'll know exactly what's going on in your body. I'll know more about you than you know about yourself. So I'll know exactly the chemicals and the minerals and vitamins and everything else based on the blood work and urine test. And then from there, I work backwards and evaluate that and make a plan based on their deficiencies and how to create optimal performance. So there's a big difference between minimal and optimal. And so as sports athletes don't have time to be minimal. They have to actually optimize performance, and there's millions of dollars at stake. A lot of athletes I worked with were at the end of their career. For example, Derek Fisher, who's a player for the Los Angeles Lakers, he was at the end of his career. And if he extends his career 2 or 3 more years, that could be another $15 or $20 million, So, it's very important for them with the nutrition and supplements as they get older as well for athletes.
Right. Of course, a huge money involved in the sports industry, and of course, how these athletes tend to treat their body and how well they can preserve it and keep it injury-free. Now, talking about injury, the immediate question that really pops to my mind right now is about the Indian cricket team. Now, there are a number of players, especially someone called Ishant Sharma. I'm sure you've heard of him. Lanky fast bowler, fared really well in the current series that just got over versus Australia, but he has picked up an injury and he's been rested now in the England ODIs for a couple of one-day matches. As a fitness trainers and as a nutritionist, what would you suggest, or how would you tend to keep athletes injury-free?
Mike, I'll defer to you.
I mean, that's the number one job when you deal with professional athletes. There's so many components that goes into your training. It's diet, it's nutrition, and it's cardiovascular training, but it's also supplementation. Supplements play a huge part, and that's Rehan's specialty. And it's all about how your body can repair and recover and recuperate. And those are the things you get to prepare for. And as in cricket, I'm sure it's a lot of rotator cuff injuries, stuff of that nature. So you really want to be shoulder conscious and develop a training program that's going to help in that range. But also supplementation it's hugely important in anyone's diet.
Right, supplements are very important, Rehan. To bring you in on this, you of course have designed a number of very successful supplements for the supplement industry. But tell us, what kind of a response have you got, especially from a country like India, which is still to wake up really to the possibilities and the realities of supplements? And most people that I know of, when they go to the gym and you ask them to take supplements, they say, are you really sure it's safe? Because there is that mind block towards supplements still here in India.
That's interesting. That's something I came across in America 10 or 12 years ago. Anything that's new, people are going to be a little bit leery of. However, there's been tons of research and safety studies done on supplements. And it's funny when someone from India tells me, "Oh, I don't know if supplements are safe." Well, I tell them, "Well, do you think drinking every day is safe? How about smoking cigarettes every day? How about breathing the environment, the pollutants in the air? That's not really safe. Although drinking, the water." But it's one of those things where if you try it and you look at the research that's been done behind it, it's extremely safe and extremely effective in terms of helping you get healthier, fitter, and look better as well.
Right, gentlemen, we're almost out of time here on this show, but before we wrap up, one quick question, same question to both of you. From a layman's perspective, from a common man, he is watching the film Dostana, he loves what John looks like. Do you think anyone, Mr. X, Y, or Z, can get that kind of physique?
Well, you have to know your limitations. That's the number one thing. You have to know whatever mom and dad produced, that's you. You know what I mean? Genes have a big.
But it is possible.
Yes, everything's possible. I mean, and don't set a mind frame. Oh, I can never be like John Abraham. Always set attainable goals, and sure, I mean that look is. Everything is attainable.
Great, Ram, you would.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to overcome my Indian genetics, so I think if I can do it, a skinny kid, started out at 60 kilos, now I've went on to do bodybuilding competitions and weightlifting competitions, and maybe get a few guns going there. But so if I can overcome my genetics, anybody can do it. And I think that where you want to get from fat to fit, fit to fitter, fitter to fittest. At any age, it's absolutely possible because I've witnessed it, Mike has witnessed it, and they've seen changes in people that you would never think would change. So it is definitely possible.
Well, there you have it. What better inspiration than Mr. Rehan Jalali right there flexing his muscles and saying you can do it too. Thank you, gentlemen. Mike, Rehan, thank you both. Thank you so much for joining us here in studio. Well, that's a wrap then on this edition of the show, but don't forget, sports continues right here on NDTV 24/7. T-Toast and Sports comes your way every morning at 7:30 and then 10:30 for the entire overnight action. And of course, Turning Point, don't forget to catch that show tomorrow evening at 7:30 p.m. with Ajay Jadeja as he reviews the second England-India ODI in Indore. But till then, from the entire NDTV team here, thanks so much for being with us.